My article, My Addicted Son, appears in the New York Times Magazine in February. Nick and I both hear from friends and strangers sharing the feedback. Both of us are encouraged because it seems as if our family's story has touched many people, and according to some, helped them, especially those who have been through some version of this, or who are going through it now. When Nick is asked to write his memoir, he enthusiastically goes forward, and the reaction inspires me to want to write more about it, to go deeper. Soon I have a book deadline, though I would continue writing without one. Writing is enormously painful, and writing this story is sometimes excruciating. Writing every day, I go through the emotions I felt at the time of the story I'm remembering. I relive the hell, but I also relive the moments of hope and miracle and love. Later in February, we plan to spend the weekend skiing at Lake Tahoe. Nick gets a few days off work so he can join us. The kids ski together. Nick tells them PJ stories by the fire. When we talk about it, Nick seems empathetically committed to his sobriety. I have learned to check my optimism, but still, it's good to hear Nick discuss his life he is rebuilding and building anew in LA. In addition to his book, he is writing short stories and movie reviews for an online magazine. It seems so fitting that he's reviewing movies, since they are a big part of his life. Every day in LA, Nick bikes, swims, or runs. Sometimes he does all three. Nick and Randy ride up and down the coast from Santa Monica. They ride through the canyons, up hillsides, through the city, and along beaches. When I drive him to the airport after his visit in the mountains, he tells me that he loves his life. He uses those words, "I love my life." He says that his rides with Randy enliven and sustain him. The high is so much better than the drugs ever were, he says. It is the high of a full life. Writing, I feel it all. Yes, I am optimistic. Do I stop worrying? No. A few days before this year's step-up ceremony at Daisy and Jasper's school. She is stepping up to 4th grade, Jasper to 6th. Karen and I are home in Inverness. Suddenly, I feel as if my head is exploding. People use this as an expression. Not this time. I feel as if my head is exploding. Karen, call 911. She stares at me a minute, doesn't comprehend that I'm saying, "Are you?" She places the call. It takes 10 or 15 minutes for 3 men carrying boxes and machines and a stretcher to arrive. They set up near me in the living room. They ask questions and perform a preliminary examination while strapping on a blood pressure and heart monitor. They ask which hospital I prefer. I am in the back of an ambulance. I lie in the ambulance with 2 men hovering over me. They talk to me. I cannot understand. I am sick, repeatedly throwing up into a plastic receptacle, apologizing. When the ambulance arrives at the hospital, Karen is waiting in the emergency room with her father. An admitting doctor or nurse discusses options when I hear Dawn quietly say something. "Have you considered a subarachnoid hemorrhage? Maybe you should do a CT scan." The doctor or nurse eyes him with some uncertainty but says, "Yes, we'll do a CT right away." I am wheeled down a corridor and into an elevator. I am not panicked or fearful that I will die because I am too confused for such a straightforward thought. I feel a strange peacefulness. I am moved from my gurney onto a long plastic board and from there onto another gurney that moves like a conveyor belt until my head is inside a small tunnel. I am told not to move. White light, a clonking noise, blue light. I am wheeled back to the emergency room. By then, I don't know. My condition worsens. I hear the phrase, cerebral hemorrhage. I know only that I have heard of it and can roughly decipher the words cerebral, the brain, hemorrhage, bleeding. Late at night, Karen goes to her parents, where Jasper and Daisy are asleep. In the morning, early, the telephone rings. Karen, who has not slept much, answers it. A nurse, my nurse, is calling. I should warn you, he can't speak. At the hospital, a neurosurgeon takes Karen aside and tells her that he wants to drill a hole in my skull and insert a shunt. It will alleviate the pressure. She gives her permission. Karen's sister is a nurse at the University of California Medical Center, and her close friend is a neuro-oncologist there. The doctor visits me at the hospital and, after consulting with my surgeon, arranges for me to be moved to the neuro-ICU at UC in San Francisco. I take another ambulance ride. This one is over the Golden Gate Bridge into the city. The neuro-ICU. I am crawling out of my skin, too hot, unable to lie still with drugs to combat drugs. Anti-nausea, anti-swelling, anticoagulant, anti-pain, blood pressure made higher by the anxiety, requiring more medication that causes more anxiety. I am taped and strapped and stuck with needles, and tubes protrude from my body, from my arms and my penis and the top of my head. Like Neo in Matrix. At some point, my pubic hair is shaved for angiograms. I itch from the morphine. I am blasted by harsh lights and hear, feel ceaseless pounding from shrill monitors. Nick. Where is Nick? Where is Nick? Where is Nick? Where is Nick? I must call Nick. I cannot remember his telephone number. 310. What comes next? On a time cube on the bedside table, shimmering numbers, radioactive blue-green, reform, so that the 2 morph into a 3 and the 5 and 9 dissolve into a pair of boxy zeros. 3 in the morning. 310. That is his area code. If only I could quell the incessant sonar-like pinging. If I could extinguish the humming ice-white lights. If I could recall Nick's telephone number. The nurse berates me for fiddling with the shunt that sticks out of the top of my head. I forgot. I'm sorry. When she's gone, I reach up with my unencumbered hand and trace the plastic tube from where it juts out like a pear stem from the shaved patch at the top of my skull. The thin hose loops upward like a curling flume to an S-hook that dangles from a metal stand. From there, it makes a swan dive, plunging into a sealed plastic bag. I move my head to the right, a fraction. When I do, I see the tube like an errant artery carrying a trail of clear fluid tinged with red. The liquid slowly dripping into the bag is draining spinal and brain fluid. The red is the hemorrhaging blood. A nurse explains again. I am bleeding deep inside my brain in the subarachnoid space. When this happens, it is almost always caused by an aneurysm, a weakened spot on an artery that leaks blood. I surmise that often the bleeding is lethal. It can also cause temporary or permanent brain damage. A new nurse. She pushes buttons on the monitors. Please, will you help me call my son? I don't remember his telephone number. I have to call him. Your wife will be here in the morning, she says. She'll have the number. I need the number now. Get some sleep. It's too late to call him now anyway. Voices drone from the nurse's station. 310.